Does Jeff Foxworthy even matter in 2022? Do more people have pronoun preferences? We're asking the big questions and many more today because this is Nindie Nation episode 157. Greetings, citizens! I'm Jeff, and today we're checking out 16 brand new indie games, all hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, August 28th. After such a big lineup last week, I was surprised to see a few games still manage to sneak out onto the eShop. But they did, so as usual, that's where we're gonna start. So tell me down in the comments what you think of this week's lineup, and if you'd like to see any of this week's releases during our Nindies at Night stream this Thursday. Now, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and let's kick off episode 157 of Nindie Nation by taking a look at the 5 neglected Nindies that released since episode 156. The first sneaky little Nindie of last week is Timberman: The Big Adventure, coming in hot at $4.49. This latest title by Forever Entertainment is based on the characters in the Timberman minigame series, and as you can tell, it's a 2D hop and bop platformer that is clearly a mobile port. That said, it still looks decent, so if you dig the simple throwbacks, toss it on your wishlist for a rainy day sale. And then Nerd Games released Marmoset for $1.99. While the name refers to a creepy-looking animal that's like the gritty reboot of a zoo monkey, this is a 2D survival game that takes place in the aftermath of World War III. With an overarching mystery driving the plot, you and your AI companion will explore caves and fight monsters while tackling all the cooking, building, fishing, and other related survival game tasks that are needed. There aren't many reviews for it, and I'm always a bit skeptical of a game that launches with an 80% discount. But if you want to know what it's like to control a train, you should probably move to Japan because they have some dope train sim setups. If you want a little janky indie take on the idea though, Lumeria Games released Train Ride Simulator for $9.99. It's a weird name though, because Train Ride Simulator would suggest it's a simulator where you just sit and look out the window? Based on the publisher's previous efforts, I wouldn't get my hopes up about this one. But one I am getting my hopes up for, even if just a little bit, is the first release by Upside Down Bird, and that's Super Gravity Ball, which hit the eShop for $9.99. At first glance, it's a single-screen puzzle platformer just like all the others out there, and even with its mechanic of changing gravity, it still doesn't really stand out. However, I really like the music I heard, and I think the way the different worlds have such a different visual style is a neat touch. Probably another for your wish list, but either way, it could be worth a shot. And Layer Land Story, my friends. This is one for the textbooks. As P-Cube's latest slightly horny visual novel thing, this features a magical fantasy setting, a main character with amnesia, and a magical girl who decides she needs to live with you. You make choices that impact the story, and you treat this little magical girl like, I don't know, one of the Chows in Sonic Adventure? Because you, level her up and assign RPG stats, but I don't see any real gameplay where you would need those. It's $14.99, and I'm not gonna lie here, I have no idea what the f*** is going on. So, survive World War III, chop down some wood, level up the magical girl's libido, or use gravity to play with your ball. Oh, wow, that didn't sound good. Let's just move on. I'll cut it out now. These are the 16 new releases hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, August 28th. First up on Tuesday the 23rd is not a pirate game, despite what you may think when you hear Yars Recharged. Fans of retro games should know, though, that Yars Revenge is an old Atari game from 1982 that is kinda the first shoot-'em-up, I guess you could say. As we've seen with so many of these Atari Recharge titles, Atom Vision Studios and Sneaky Box are back to spruce up yet another classic Atari title, and as long as you enjoyed the original or appreciate these simple score attack games, for $9.99, it's safe to say this latest release is one worth checking out. And then we've got a game that, not every indie game has to be chock full of new ideas. Sometimes all it takes is the right execution, and that seems to be just what we've got here with Right for $6.99. I'm a bit biased with this one because while I have no relation to the Australian developer Pond Games, the PR team assisting with the Switch port, the Indie EXP, is founded by Alex from Switchaboo, who was super cool to Nindie Nation ever since our earliest days, so take that as you will. Nite is a high-speed, single-screen action platformer, where you must navigate to the exit while grabbing as many items as possible and avoiding all kinds of spinning saw blades of death. If you're thinking of Celeste or Super Meat Boy, you're on the right track. Do you see this game, though? Do you see how good it looks? At this point, I'm not sure where it'll be in the show, but I'm loving the music in this game too, and fully intend to use some of the soundtrack if I can get my hands on the files. Like I said, it's nothing you haven't played before, but it's $7, comes from a couple of Australian teams, which we don't see too often, and puts a level of polish on a familiar formula that should make Nite a game worth revisiting the genre for. And then, Handy Games, a Nindie publisher whose catalog features numerous games from all across the spectrum of quality, decides to hit cruise control this week as they kick back, down a few choice beverages, tell Jeff Foxworthy he can go f*** himself, and ask you the question, are you smarter than a 5th grader? I can tell you this much, if anyone's considering shelling out $29.99 for this bare-bones cash grab, I'd argue they are not. But East Asia Soft has the first of 2 games lined up for Wednesday the 24th, as they publish a little precision platformer of their own that I can only assume is named after any young man's first days of puberty, because Kid Ball Adventure, drops for $4.99. Kidding aside, I'm not too keen on a challenging mobile platformer port where the shtick is that you're always bouncing, but the developer Spoonbox Studios' other release, Kingdom of Arcadia, was a fun, cheap little game I had a good time with. So if a bouncing ball platformer is what you're looking for, I bet the game delivers. So far for this week, though, the game that I'm finding most intriguing is a wholesome Metroidvania called Islets, and I think this is one worth putting on your radar. Let me tell you why. If we're being reductive, most of what I see here is very much inspired by Hollow Knight, with the way your mousy little dude moves around the screen, the flow of the combat, and even some of the UI elements. But of course it's much more colorful, even if the style has a bit of that cheap mobile game look to it. The name Islets stems from the structure of the game itself. It's a very traditional Metroidvania. One look at the map screen should tell you that much. But as you explore an area, you'll find a piece for your ship which allows you to go to the next area to explore, which you'll then connect to the world you've already traversed. I don't know if that actually plays out much differently than what we'd usually see in the genre, but I like the approach, and it is hard to deny the game's adorable charm. Islets releases for $19.99, and if the reviews fare well, I could see this being a great change of pace for a genre that's usually so much darker. And we've still got a baker's dozen Nindies to check out, but before we get to the big Thursday drop, here are the week's releases that you can probably pass on. Kairosoft is back, and it's been a while, so let me remind you. Over a decade ago, they made a wonderful $1 sim game called Game Dev Story, and I highly recommend you check it out on your mobile phone. Since then, they've pumped this game out more than 20 times with hardly anything more than a change in theme and a preposterous price. Forest Camp Story is the latest example, and yet another you can avoid.
Game Dev Story is really sweet, though.
And the literal poster child for shovelware comes to the Switch this week when Higgs Games ports Chicken Shoot. You know, the game you'd find stacks of in the Wii bargain bin at any Walmart. In fact, they're probably still there today. They call this one
More Hun X, Crazy Chicken X,
which is obviously way better. Hook Games wears their effort on the sleeve with the aptly named Mahjong Minimal, and I swear, Alignment Sharp has to be a sweatshop of kids pumping out this weekly escape room trash because today we've got 2 to cover. For brevity's sake, I'm just gonna read both of their titles now.
Escape game and card search game R01M creates Go-Town Nyanzu and
Kumakichi Escape
Game.
What? Then PixArts put a hot dog on a booger and called it BlobQuest.
Good job, guys.
And Weakfish Studios' game would be a simulation of me covering this segment every week, but the only problem is when they named it Enduring Mountain, they forgot to add of sh. It is fitting, though, that the people responsible for Alien War are called Game Museum. Though, should the human race ever be wiped out by aliens or something, and their titles were recovered from a real game museum, I fear the aliens would just try to kill us all over again. And finally, check this out. We've got 2 games from supposedly brand new publishers, but I've seen so many of these already, most recently with Boombit changing their name like 3 times. I'm almost positive that Nerona Sports is just cooking and publishing masquerading as a company called Cocoon Games, and Worldwide Flight Simulator is Pixar's under the name Error Studio. To be fair though, if my name was tied to any of the games these last 2 have released, I'd be ashamed enough to change my name too. But they've done enough to clog the eShop toilet this week, so let's get back to the games we actually might want to play. The Big Thursday drop kicks off with a game that, whoo boy, how do we even start with this one? I Was a Teenage Exocolonist is a game that I'm going to use to coin a new genre. You ready? Now, this isn't a genre as in a platformer or shooter per se. No, this is a subgenre, like how we say roguelike platformer or roguelike shooter, okay? I Was a Teenage Exocolonist is a kitchen sink simulation game. You're not simulating a kitchen sink, but, well, actually, you might in this one. So, this game, in its gorgeous watercolor aesthetic, puts you in the shoes of a teenager growing up in humanity's first extrasolar society. From there, you grow up. You make choices, you pick a job, any number of 25 of them. You romance any number of 10 different characters. You become skilled in organization, bravery, empathy, and through a loop of lifelines, you explore over 800 different story events. It's crazy, right? Throughout all of it, a couple of gameplay components stay consistent. Whether you're acting as a retail store clerk, studying in school, or surveying flora and fauna a la No Man's Sky, or going full-on Pokemon by capturing space creatures, all of the gameplay is done through a deck-building system. Sorry, that last comment probably lost some of you. But just look at this game and consider the scope. It's insane what Northway Games has set out to do here. You'll explore an evolving character with evolving gameplay and increasingly mature situations as you play through the seasons and years of your colonist as a preteen, a teenager, and a young adult. And so much of what's at stake here is just so well thought out. They've partnered with publisher Finji to release the game for $24.99, and if it's up your alley, there's plenty of reason to believe that the game is at least going to deliver in replay value. And then we've got a game that requires me to pronounce it as HECK, which releases for $19 and is brought to us by a team whose name I think is supposed to be pronounced Bling Game, but I personally prefer Blingame. It just sounds fancier. Okay, I don't know how else to say this, but HECK, my friends, looks f***ing dope. It's a 2D Metroidvania set in a cyberpunk world, and the visuals look like some kind of comic book brought to life. It released for PC in late 2020 and doesn't have many reviews, but those that are there are all very positive. Your main weapon is some kind of grappling hook / whip, and that on its own makes any game get like half a point better score. And the whole vibe to the game is super slick. In terms of the pleasant surprises I often find when putting this show together, few have recently piqued my interest quite like HECK, so I'm hoping we get to try this one out on Nindies at Night. Next up is a game that feels like a troll, but I think is sincere. In 2016, a Kickstarter launched for Tea Time Golf, a casual golf game that eventually became a VR mainstay in the earlier days of VR. Now it's being ported to the Switch, and it still looks like a lower-end VR game ported to the Switch. This might be fun, and the team at Barker's Crest Studios seem like nice enough people, so I'm not trying to hate on the game, but for $25, I'm certainly waiting for reviews. It's been a while since we've heard from Playism! In fact, it's been so long that I forgot about their little corner in the space of horny anime games. This week, they release Idol Manager for $24.99, and try as I might, I'm finding it hard to poke fun at this one because it actually looks like a fleshed-out management sim where you try to take an up-and-coming singer and turn her into the anime superstar of your dreams. You give lessons, you manage finances, and rumor has it that an upcoming Britney Spears DLC will let you lock your idol away while you siphon all of her money for over 15 years, while tricking the public into thinking that your idol has lost her mind. I'm interested to see how that one ends.
Leave Benny alone!
Oh, I'm sorry, did that get a little too down to earth for you? How about you swap out the anime singers for anime, mer people? Sorry, I'm not exactly brushed up on my mer people pronouns. Wait, are there mer people pronouns? I guess there are. Aquadyne is a wholesome visual novel with a plot centered around a boy who discovers the underwater world of Aquadyne is real and lives out a double life, giving gondola tours during the day and then learning about mer people at night. It's 1999, developed by Soft Colors, received overall positive reviews, and is published by Ratalaika Games. And my goodness, does this next game look awesome. And it continues the trend of developers who were built to be animation studios but ended up making games, which can give us really cool experiences like Unruly Heroes or, more recently, PlayStation's Stray. Lofter Studios' first big video game release is Coffee Quest, a lovely little adventure with a blend of action RPG and real-time strategy gameplay. Looking like a webcomic come to life, you play as Coffee, a non-playable character who's come to the realization that he's in a video game, just as every other character in that world has too. There's hilarious voice acting throughout the story, and you'll find yourself either exploring towns and talking to people, trekking across open spaces with Zelda-like action, or holing up to defend a base with mechanics that look a lot like how you control Pikmin. I love games that break the fourth wall, and when they do so with so much humor and offer something unique, I'm all in. Coffee Quest launches with a 25% discount and is available by
Hype Train Digital
for $14.99. We've got one more release that shares a similar webcomic art style, but let's first knock out a couple smaller Nindies dropping later this week. Hidden Shapes Black Skull plus Old West is a collection of 2 titles from Cubite Interactive that ask you to find the pictures and shapes among black and white line drawings, which only appear when you're looking at them from just the right angle. Similar to Superliminal or even the Echochrome series, for $3.99 you take your pick between pirates and cowboys, and then break your brain trying to see things from just the right perspective. East Asia Soft has a first-person 3D platformer for $2.99 called Back Again, and besides the creepy, minimalistic visuals with nothing but black, white, and red, they decided to up the ante with a bunch of sentient, naked mannequins, just in case you wanted some nightmare fuel. And if, like me, you just love those found footage games full of real-time video acted in the worst B-movie way possible, you might enjoy Criminal Expert by Forever Entertainment. For $9.99, you play as a police investigator who's interrogating anyone who knows anything about the girl who woke up after being left for dead in the woods. You have 3 days to solve the case, so you have to be frugal with how you spend your time, and of course there are multiple paths in how the story could play out. My only concern here is that although it claims to have voice acting in multiple languages, the trailer only shows English subtitles. And as you know, Americans can't read or accept other cultures. Zigma Games and Fredbear Games team up to bring us a chill 2D management sim that is giving me serious Fallout Shelter vibes. The Bonfire Forsaken Lands launches for just $6.39 and uses a papercraft style with earthy tones to create a somber environment in which to develop your settlement way up in the snowy mountains. You'll farm, prepare defenses, and develop relations with other nations as you expand your encampment. And for the price, the reviews are pretty good. And then last up for the week is yet another game that catches your eye with bright comic book artwork. Like no other, The Legend of the Twin Books is developed by Actun Studios, and is a short, casual-minded romp through the story of a clumsy first-time adventurer. It looks wonderful, but not only is it just 90 minutes long, and not only does it seem so simplistic that it might be geared towards non-gamers, but it's also $19. I'd love to check this one out, but I think it's gonna have to have a pretty big discount first. After last week's non-stop torrent of top-tier Nindies, this week's offering is pretty good, but definitely falls just shy of the highs from last week. The Metroidvanias are standing out to me this week with Islets and Hack, as are the traditional Nindies like Rite and the Bonfire. Let me know if you plan to check any of these out by hitting up the comments down below. You can also find us on Twitter, and we'd love to see you pop into the Nindie Nation Discord. Nindies at Night this week will likely feature the games we had planned for last week with Robo Revenge Quest, Communion, and Slaycation Paradise. But if there's something from this week that you really want to see, let me know. Next week, we see the release of 2 long-in-development Kickstarter projects, an anticipated sequel to an underrated sports gym, and a couple of cyberpunky action games that are really grabbing my attention. But that's all for next week, citizens. We're all done for today. Thanks so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing Nindie Nation with others. Until next week, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 157. And remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.